Hello and welcome to another tactical breakdown. This time, United with the win against Crystal Palace, and I think it's going to be a really interesting one to look at. Obviously, it being a win, being 11 men, I think without all the emotion of the loss against Everton, it's easier to see what is not working for United. Really interesting in some respects, though, and definitely an important game because a crazy stat on this is that was United's first win against a team in London that isn't Fulham since 2022. The beginning of 2022, January 2022, was actually Mason Greenwood's last game at Manchester United, was the last time they beat a team that wasn't Fulham in London. There's a lot of teams in London. There's a lot of teams in London. And United have had an awful record in the Premier League in there. And so, that essentially means I don't know exactly how many games it's been per season or something, but there's got to be at least, well, the number is 26 before this. 26 games, 3 of those against Fulham that they won. That means there was 23 games before this away in London that they didn't win since that point in time. So give or take over the 3.5 years, it's something like 7 games a season that they were not winning over there. First time in a long time, which is wild. That number actually predates Ten Hag. That means besides Fulham, we didn't have a single win in London away. So crazy stuff. Obviously very important for United to get that victory against Palace. We needed it. Looking at the stats just really quick before we do sort of the tactical breakdown. United obviously more possession, more territory, more control in this game statistically. Created a little bit less than Palace, though forced quite a few more saves. Obviously, they have a penalty in that, a retaken penalty, mind you, which is still to me the most nuts thing on earth, that a player can mess up their penalty and they just get a second shot at it. No, just try again, buddy. So, yeah, United missed 2 big chances. Palace missed 2 big chances, but scored their penalty. An interesting game overall. One of the things I want to highlight here is this tackles won percentage. United, volume-wise, got ended with a lot of tackles and duels by the end of the game, but certainly when it comes to efficiency of defense, efficiency of winning battles and things, very poor, which we can kind of highlight in a minute here. But it was an important win, obviously. Moves United into, it was 5th, and then it was 6th and then 7th, but 7th place, 1 point behind 5th and 6th, 3 points behind 4th and 3rd, 4 points behind 2nd. It's a crazy league, but then you look down the table, and it's also 4 points down to 15th and Fulham. So it is a crazy season in terms of how close everybody is. And again, this festive period, I always expect this is where we're going to start to see some gaps form. And United have to make sure, given that they have a favorable schedule, that was probably the toughest fixture that United have until January. I don't know if people realize that either. Now, does it matter? No, because United will screw up the easy fixtures too, right? But genuinely speaking, that was, I think, the toughest fixture probably till January. One could argue Aston Villa away might be tougher because they're above us in the table right now, but they actually haven't been very good. But hey, maybe. It's definitely the toughest, arguably the toughest during this run, given United's record. We've beat Villa away, I believe, on a few occasions at least. But let's get into the game itself. A game that I think really clearly lays out the exact situation with United and where we're at. It's inconsistent. As Ruben said, a lot of it comes down to between the first half and the second half, just being more intense, more energetic, winning more battles, upping the levels while doing the same things. And I think that that's all that it is, more aggressive, and that's in possession and out of possession. And sometimes doing that looks like tactical changes. They're not. He said himself he made no tactical changes in the second half, though I do think the sub of Mazraoui was really important to helping United see out that game. he's really good, and he'll probably get the start there, get Lenny a little bit out of the spotlight for the little bit of time. Lenny wasn't terrible on the rewatch or anything, but wasn't particularly great either. Made a really great block, gave away the penalty. More, I think, where you need more from Lenny right now, and we'll get to De Ligt and such in a second too on this, is the aggression out the back, playing with the ball, driving it forward, passing, dribbling, carrying. Very scared performance still from De Ligt and Lenny in that respect that they need to shake themselves out of, because it's not good enough, and it's a big reason for a lot of the problems that we have. But a tale of two halves there. First half really poor, second half a lot better. And a lot still just comes down to the midfield. Same as ever. The midfield is just simply too slow, to win its duels, too slow to win its battles. It gets overrun. Every midfield is beating them. And it's like, again, as I said before, without it being like this big thing of like me hammering on Bruno Fernandes, it's not. I don't think he's lazy. There's people who sit there and say, shit, he's lazy. He's this. That's not what I'm saying at all. Bruno is just doesn't have the legs for what we need in that midfield for 90 minutes. And Casemiro definitely doesn't. And in the rewatch, I came away with a slightly different conclusion than when I watched it live as well. But of course, Bruno is an exceptional player who has a talent to also do important things. As a team, we still live and die by the Bruno. And I think that game is the perfect example of how I've been saying that for months now. And it's my biggest concern with the team. First half, Bruno bad, we're bad. Second half, Bruno helps make some more things happen, we win. Now look, it wasn't an amazing performance from him. I know he gets 2 assists, which is doing a lot of heavy lifting on the finishes from Mount and Xerxes there. But fair play, worked with us, got us back in, and he was better in the second half in a lot of ways. So let's break it down and look at it, and you'll see what I mean. This is a problem, though, that we have to solve moving forward, because there has to be a level of consistency. And I was thinking about it because I've asked the question, when we win, it's Bruno. When we lose, it's often Bruno. Was there a game this season that we won when Bruno didn't stand out, didn't have to stand out? And I'm talking, that's what I mean. We need to be able to perform at a level of a baseline that works, that is not predicated on either really good or really bad in the midfield. And I think the answer is Sunderland. Against Sunderland, I remember breaking it down after the game and saying, the best thing I can say about that is I didn't notice Bruno and Casemiro in that game. They didn't really do anything. Nothing special, just doing the basics. And that was our calmest, most routine, most basic win of the season. That's what I'm talking about. I just want more of that. It's not a shot against, Bruno's terrible, this and that, because he is, of course, an exceptional player, but he is volatile. He is inconsistent. And because everything runs through him, that's often how it is. I would love to see more basic performance from him, but I don't think that he has the legs and the energy to put that in anymore, because that requires a lot, just winning your battles and duels in the midfield and getting the ball out wide. It's the first part that's the problem. It's not the on ball. It's all the off ball stuff, the running, the movement, all of that as well. So let's get right into it and take a look. So this is the opening part of the game, and I want to highlight Joshua Xerxes dropping in. You can see Bruno here, Wharton here, Dallo here. Xerxes dropping into the space a lot over on this left side. He did it in both halves. In the second half, it proved a lot more fruitful than the first half. But I want to show, obviously, he gets the ball there, hits it back to Casemiro running forward. And this is this thing I was talking about. Like I say, when I reached a little bit of a different conclusion after the rewatch. For Bruno, it wasn't terrible, especially on ball. It was decent most of the game. Off ball, not as good. But Casemiro, man, it's ugly for Casemiro. The whole watch was really, really poor. Again, the last game I spoke about this point where, for whatever reason, Casemiro seems incapable of taking an extra touch, of dribbling, of carrying, of finding the spaces, of finding the pressure, of manipulating the ball. Everything has to be first time with him. So Xerxes releases a pass over to him. Now look at the top. I know the lighting in this Palace Stadium is horrendous, right, in these afternoon games. But look at this positioning here. Look at what we've got when you look at the lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then there's one over here. 9. That means there's one player in the opposite half. This ball comes back to Casemiro, and he charges forward at it. Instead of just receiving it, taking one touch and turning and looking at Ahmad and Mbeumo out here where we can get that easy 2-on-1. And that opportunity was very much not there very often because Palace, of course, playing the same system, same formation at least, are man-to-man everywhere. And that means we often aren't getting those kinds of advantages. But instead, has to be tunnel-visioned, one-touch pass, and he ends up trying to fire it into Mount. And it's clearly well defended and blocked off anyway because the pass just goes straight into Adam Wharton. Very, very impressed with Adam Wharton. You know, in watching this game, he was always so readily in the right spots. He's not the fastest, not the strongest maybe player, not the most, you know, I don't know what you would say about Adam Wharton in this respect. Obviously, like I said, there's been some question. Is he the guy? You know, is he the best player? I don't know. But what I can say is that he is certainly very, very, very intelligent at where you want him to be. He knows where to be. He seems to get that. He seems to always be in the right space. He seems to always be in the right location. You just move this a little. There we go. And we get a little bit better of a picture. Cool. He intercepted the ball really well. His positioning is really good. So even if he's not the fastest, most combative player, he is really good at knowing where to be. And he's so intelligent. So you can see when he intercepts this, that Ahmad and Mbeumo are still in acres and acres of space if we could just take a touch. But Casemiro, first-time specialist. Everything has to be first time. Yeah. Here's the next thing that matters. Again, the back line, similar to Everton. I don't like this, right? So you can see because they're kind of man-to-man, this is who they're defending in these positions, okay? The 10s are dropping, and of course, that's overloading things a little bit because instead of one of these players stepping up into the midfield to follow, they're staying on the 10s right here a little bit as well. And the backliner, well, really it's the backline. The backliner staying deeper so that the midfield then have to cover the 10s. This is good because what this means is that we have a free man here. We technically have a free man here, but there's not going to be loads and loads of spaces. But how do you break this? What is the way to break this? Well, if you take a look at how it's set up right now, because the center backs are staying deep and the 10s are dropping in, you're going to have a free man in the middle or a free man out here. If someone on one of these sides is aggressive, it's going to drag one of these and you're going to have an option here or an option here. Instead, they're standing too far back, sitting deep, slovenly, same thing in the middle, taking too long on the ball. One of these guys needs to step up into these spaces, move forward, and then get the ball, and that's going to drag this player out. And that's going to open up space here, or it's going to open up space here, or the center back's going to step up, in which case, Bruno could run or Xerxes could run. There's so many different things to do, but it all starts with these center backs needing to be more aggressive, and they're not. And they weren't, and they didn't start the game aggressive, the same as versus Everton. And like Emeram says, he wants the center back to dictate the play. It's the whole point of the system. When we get good, that they'll need to do that. They ain't been doing it. And they didn't do it again at the start of this game. Instead, we do this weird thing where, we just pass it straight sideways, walk backwards. This triggers the press. But because of the positioning of the team, right? Because they're all standing back here uncovered, Mateta can just shift over to block this route to Casemiro. The press can block an angle here. This gets closed down. This gets closed down. And there's really nowhere to go. So, of course, we end up going backwards, and it goes back usually to the keeper. If, again, this ball was received running up here, it would push wide. These players could step up. If Mateta follows, you can go to this center back, and then you end up with a big gap. There's a lot of rotation that's possible if we're aggressive. So then, again, all we can do is pass it straight backwards. Useless. Does nothing for us, right? So then the pass comes straight back from Lenny to De Ligt, and we've seen this the last two games. It's not good enough. When teams are letting us have the ball, not good enoug. Here you can see the difference when a center back is aggressive. Xerxes drops. Mount and I think Dalot sort of switch here. That works. Shaw presses, so you can see there's a free man. Man to man, man to man, man to man, because they have to keep two center backs on the central attacker here, in which case this is Bruno. Because they're keeping two, that means you're going to have that extra man, someone watching here, striker, midfielder, you end up with an extra man. So by Shaw running forward with the ball a few minutes later, it creates a situation where we can do something with it. Shaw continues his run forward. Dalot shifts out. Again, free man. It rotates a few more times and ends up in a actually really good situation where Bruno can run through the lines. Xerxes running into the same channel if the ball makes it through. It's barely deflected by the defender from Palace and goes out for a corner. This is good. Good moment, and it all happens because Luke Shaw is aggressive and drives the ball forward on that side, which is really important. Now, I do want to highlight once again, even by doing that and drawing all these defenders, look who's up out wide, arms wide, saying, hey, switch the damn ball. Yeah, we didn't do it enough. We did not do that enough, same as in the first play. But at least in this instance, it was a decent ball. This is probably... Maybe this is the better ball because of the way we've pulled all these defenders around. The left wing back is on Mbeumo in this situation, and Ahmad is free, snuck in there. If Dalot can switch this in, we probably get deeper penetration. But if the defender doesn't take this touch, Bruno's also in on goal. So it's not a bad one. It wasn't a bad play, but it highlights just how many opportunities are created by proper rotation. So we end up with a corner out of it. Maybe we could have done better. I don't know. Then again here, just sort of highlighting, yes, one of the reasons why I would say, not the best game, from Lenny here, where we're kind of missing, but also in highlighting, just sort of these issues in the midfield here. You can see, Lenny presses up and out. He's got to drop in a little bit quicker from stepping out to cover the man that is dropping in. Casemiro's covering Mateta, who's dropping in. This ball's coming over to Wharton. This is Bruno on a player. This is Mount here. We just struggled with this. Again, in this instance, you can see that our center backs here were too late to step up. So the ball comes in here. Bruno steps over. Player's able to turn around. This is that thing where when you don't have to play at one touch, what you can do. Because in this situation, if it's Casemiro or something like that, he's often just receiving the ball. There's players around him. He's going to one-touch pass it anywhere. Instead, dribble it out of pressure, switch to the other side. It's actually the exact scenario. You can't see it because of the camera angle. It's the exact scenario Casemiro receives the ball in that other instance, the one we first looked at. But instead of one-touch passing, turns back to goal, dribbles it towards his goal, turns and switches play over to this side and gets at us. But I will say these guys are late. With the number of players Palace have back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then one goalkeeper and one player over on this side that Shaw is covering, there's no reason to be deep when these players are dropping. This is Mateta. This is the forward. This is the other forward. There's no reason to be 20 yards off of them. They were late. Center backs have been poor the last couple of games. That's one of the problems we've had. They need to be much more aggressive, stepping up again. Pretty much everybody but Shaw, to be quite honest. Here's another moment. This is just highlighting, and I don't want to overdo it in this instance, but what it's just highlighting is that in the midfield, there was always a lot of space between Bruno and Wharton, and a lot of space between Casemiro's cover. And we don't get that kind of space when we're playing against teams, okay? They're always much tighter to us. They're always right on us. This is just a question of legs and energy. We just don't have it. There's always going to be space. So, we press up. Ball comes into Wharton. He can just send it backwards because we're later in the press. Ball comes into Wharton again. A few seconds later, it comes back to Wharton. Late on the press, he's able to hit the ball through the lines all the way up to Mateta. And again, De Ligt was late, slow. This is where De Ligt gets fully done. He kind of chases him to the sideline and Mateta cuts past him. Again, De Ligt was late and slow in the first half. Better in the second half dealing with Mateta for sure as he tired, but he struggled with him in this game. So it's like, I mean, look at this, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at this midfield. This is Palace in possession, right? This is like, it's not like they're doing anything special in terms of their buildup. They're doing the same things we do that people complain about. Stick a bunch of players up front, hit a long ball from the midfield into them. That's fine. It works. And the reason it works for them and not for us as much is because they were quicker. They were faster. They were more energetic, especially, in the middle. Here's another instance. This is what I'm talking about, second balls, okay? Here, Dalot's running for the second ball. Wharton is waiting here. This is one of the things where Bruno cheats. He starts running over to try and receive a pass to get on the ball. Your primary responsibility, because United were not in possession here. Palace were. Ball ends up bouncing. Dalot's going to try and recover a loose ball. This is where we're worse than other teams, time and time again. You can't cheat for possession. The first responsibility is to win the ball. He's cheating for the pass on that. So Wharton, his man, is able to come right in, pick up the loose ball, and pass it instantly backwards. That's where I say, again, Wharton has brilliant awareness. He's so good at spotting where the ball is going to be, where it's going to bounce, where it's going to fall, and getting to it quickly, and then getting the ball out to one of his teammates. So, again, it's just one of those instances where you're not having an effect on it when you're cheating to try to be in possession. I'm not being overly critical, but this is a problem. If you rewatch, we lose all the second balls, all of them. And we are not at all combative enough in the midfield. We lost every second ball in that first half. Again, you can see in the build-up, a ball comes in. Casemiro, miles away from his mark, gives them a lot of time to turn and attack. Here, we defend. Luke Shaw heads the ball in. This is the same thing I pointed out versus Everton. Heads the ball out from the back, and there's just no chance. Casemiro behind the play. See, I just want to highlight, this is the same instance, okay? This is 9 seconds earlier. So Casemiro is behind his mark here, running forward, and then when the ball goes past, he's behind his mark again. We just don't have it. So this is his guy. Here's Bruno. Loose ball comes in off the header from Shaw. Bruno misjudges it. Casemiro, I don't know what he's doing. They pick up the loose ball again, second ball. This is time and time again, second balls. I could have probably spent 30 minutes screenshotting 30, 40 different instances of second balls, loose ball recoveries. We're second to all of them, and they don't really show up in these stats. I'd like to see our second ball stats if anybody still has them anywhere, because they were good early in the season, and they've been tanking as the season has gone on. They just look more tired, and all of that. I don't remember where the hell the ball is in this because of the stupid sun. But, let's see. Here an instance again. They pass out the back. It goes to Wharton. Again, Bruno is sort of off of Wharton, tries to come over and get to him. You see Casemiro here. Wharton gets on the ball. Casemiro miles behind his player once again. Mateta drops in deep. De Ligt too slow to get there. Wharton makes the pass into Mateta, who's able to essentially dink it over and around and create an attack. Here again, an instance of second balls. It's not always about legs and energy, but it is often, and it's also just about positioning. Here, De Ligt steps up really well, actually sort of makes the tackle on Mateta here, but Casemiro, not really where you'd want him to be. This is where Shaw is essentially supposed to cover this guy. Lenny's over here. Casemiro, you want in this kind of gap. Remember, we're talking about that gap between the midfield and the center backs. This is where we need Casemiro to be, filling the spaces, not dropping too deep all the time. This has to be covered by Shaw. This is the whole point of having 3 center backs. So this is a bit of a misunderstanding, a miscoverage between Casemiro and the back line as well. They should be shifting so that he's sitting in this gap so he can pick up this ball instead of leaving players uncontested in our midfield. So again, a lot of this is just explaining what went wrong, in the first half. Here again, Dallo wins the ball right here. It kind of pops into this space. There's Bruno and Wharton. Again, Bruno slower than Wharton to get to the second ball. Wharton is able to get to it. He's able to sort of make an attack, pass it up to Mateta. Again, Wharton, absolutely brilliant. First time passing up to Mateta, incredible. Mateta quicker to get to it and wins the duel, and they keep possession again. So we really, really struggled to get the ball. Then again, I want to point out, this is the sequence that immediately follows that. This is Wharton. This is Bruno's guy. Again, we're just disorganized in the middle. Just disorganized. Bruno, I don't know where he's going. He should have been running with and sticking to Wharton in this instance. I don't know who Casemiro is covering. They're just disorganized. And the thing about it is it's man-to-man, right? They shouldn't be confused, but they are. So the ball ends up popping, goes over to Mateta, up to here, pops back to Wharton, who is completely uncovered, not being marked by Bruno. Casemiro, and this second image highlights better Casemiro, because you could say, oh, he's blocking off this pass. He's not. He just floats around blocking nobody, so Wharton's able to send the ball straight in here. They just didn't do anything. It's actually kind of hard to explain what Bruno and Casemiro are doing wrong, because they're just sort of not doing anything a lot of the time. Like, there's a high degree of intentionality when you watch other teams' midfielders and defending against us. They're always on, but it requires a high level of intensity, focus, and energy, and we just don't have that in the middle. Here again, we receive the ball. What should we do? What would be the right thing to do is just drive this ball forward, because once again, look at Ahmad, wide open at the top, and Mbumo over here. We have the numbers in this instance, right? We actually have the numbers in this instance. Even Casemiro, all you have to do is carry the ball into this little space and then spread it wide, but we can't. We can't. Instead, it turns into like going backwards around all of that. Ahmad is yelling for the ball in this instance. This is where it's just like the inability to carry under pressure and the lack of awareness of seeing that other side. It's another instance. We're only 16 minutes in, but I promise I'm not going to do too much by slides. Instead, Bruno has to turn around, come all the way back, and then switch the play to Ahmad. But you can see the defense is already starting to catch up. By the time he hits the ball out, the ball's in the air. They're already able to close it down. The advantage is gone. So again, it's just too slow in that respect. Whereas if we just drive the ball forward, that opportunity would have presented itself a lot better. All right, let's see. Oop, here we go. Here again, I'm just highlighting this. A touch comes in, ball over the top. Instead of taking it down, moving it. Once again, I just want to show there's space over here. There's space over here. Instead of just taking it, recycling it, and getting it out to the side, Casemiro has to, like, it's a requirement for his soul to one touch this back in the air, and we end up losing it. He just sort of one touches it back into traffic. There it is, and it ends up off Mason Mount's head, and they get a throw in. Here again, first time, ball comes back to Casemiro. Instead of looking, seeing where to go, where he might be able to pass it, taking it out of pressure, he has to first time smack it. Look at this image and tell me, where is a good first time ball? Where are you looking at that you see a good first time pass in this? I don't see anybody. Everyone's covered in these sections. The middle is so clogged. Look at how clogged the middle is. Look at how many players in there. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players in this small third of the pitch. Where's the first time pass? ends up actually being blocked by this player. Nearly leads to an extremely dangerous counterattack, but fortunately, the center backs are able to step up and clear it. You can see the ball here. It's so frustrating. Again, just talking second balls. De Ligt started winning a little bit more battles, steps up, heads the ball. Look at where they are. They're not even poorly positioned, but there's just not even an attempt to win it. Casemiro just sort of walks off, stands there, comes in, no attempt for the second ball. I don't know. It was frustrating because it's all half, and these are the things that like you don't see. But I thought this was a really game to highlight it because it was man to man. It's 2 against 2, and you know it is what it is. It's almost getting boring. I promise. There's no more. There's like almost no more of this. Here, receiving it, you can see that the spaces and where we want to be. But again, Casemiro turns, smacks a first-time pass in as the ball is coming into him. We actually had some really good build-up here. Ball comes in from Mount. He turns in receiving it and smacks it once again. First time up the pitch, straight into the defender. If he takes his time, takes a moment, does something else, just takes a second to think, he could hit Mbeumo. Instead, he just smacks it straight into the defender in what could have been an attack. And then he's standing in, not him actually. Bruno does okay in this instance. This is why I said I changed my perspective a little in rewatching. Because Bruno, this is Casemiro. This is Bruno. This is Casemiro's man because this is Adam Wharton in this instance. Casemiro standing there admiring his poor pass so the ball can come in. Bruno has to chase. That, of course, means Adam Wharton is free. And you see what happens. Ball comes straight from the interception in here over to Wharton. And it's all because Casemiro's ball watching. He's just standing there. And now Wharton is free and Bruno's left 1 against 2. So not the best game from Bruno, but boy, oh boy, did Casemiro not do him any favors in this. Then Casemiro comes in, puts in a late challenge, which is a foul on Wharton. Still doesn't block the pass. It ends up over in the attack, which leads to a very dangerous shot on target from a cutback. So what was the sequence? Casemiro, poor first-time pass. Casemiro ball watching. Casemiro late tackle. Disaster. Could have led to a goal. So very disappointed in that. Here again, though, this is Bruno where you got to say, don't rush it. Again, there's nobody really open here. There's no pass open here. We're trying to force a counterattack instead of just carrying the ball into space. And this is where, again, a ball carrier would help. Just keep running with it until there's space. Tries to hit it first time on his left, not first time, but tries to hit it on his left foot. It's well defended. We don't have numbers. Really, just stop rushing. Just slow it down in that instance. Here, what is this? I think this is another second ball for Casemiro. The ball comes off from the back. It's bouncing into this area where he's got to compete for it. He should be getting to this. Ends up losing out. And then just sort of smacks the ball up in the air over Ahmad's head and out. It's just poor. Like, I don't even know what to say. It was just poor in terms of looking at, winning the ball and trying to keep it. Again, want to show 2 against 2. Ball comes in. You can see how far off our midfield is off of theirs in terms of the legs. That means they're able to, easily receive it, turn under pressure, pass, do everything. We're just miles off of their midfield at this point in terms of actually fighting for the ball, fighting for possession. Still sort of ball watching as the ball is moving through the middle, as everyone's moving around. We're just sort of static. And that's, again, the difference. Very, very static in the middle. So it's hard to see this because of the sun, but essentially the ball comes into here. It comes over to Wharton. Again, we're watching. Bruno should be tightening this angle. Casemiro should actually be blocking off a pass. Instead, they're just sort of static, standing still. Ball comes to Wharton. Pass comes over in here. Again, doesn't block the passing angle, doesn't close down the pass, doesn't do anything. This is actually how they scored. very similarly. This isn't where they scored, but this is almost the same moment. Then we're defending 1 against 6. This is not where the penalty happens, and they nearly score. They're able to kind of recycle the play. This is how they score, though, by the way. Ball comes out wide off of that sort of recycling moment. Then, okay, watch Bruno and Wharton. This is Bruno's guy. He needs to get tight to him and watch him. He doesn't. Wharton drifts back. Ball comes into him. You can see here, Bruno slow to close it down. Casemiro, what are you doing? Where are you blocking? Lenny, completely wrong side of Mateta here. Wharton's able to put an absolutely stupendous pass in through to Mateta, and then the foul happens, and it's a penalty. So that was the bad. That was the bad. Now I want to talk about the second half and just show, here, just highlighting second balls. I don't remember if this is a good or a bad moment. This is good. This is where it starts to get better. Here, defender intercepts a pass. Bruno ends up stepping properly in front of it. I don't have the image in between, but Bruno runs into the right spot, picks up the loose ball, out over to Dallo right away. Dallo is able to pick up the ball and gets fouled right here. This is where we scored. So it starts from, I think, the first instance in the entire game where we win the ball in the right spot. I think that's actually Mason Mount. By winning the ball up high, intercepting the play, we actually end up with the ball in a good, dangerous position. We get the free kick and a good pass over from Bruno, and a better finish from Xerxes results in the goal. So, again, winning the ball in the right spot leads to that kind of goal. The next thing is here, where things changed a little to a degree. Bruno started dropping a bit deeper to solve the progression issues, which he does. He did against Everton as well. But again, I put that on the center backs. That's why I talked about him for him, why I said Bruno had a good second half. They were not doing enough with it. Shaw was playing quite aggressively, but it wasn't particularly an adjustment, but it was more of like, all right, fine. If you're not going to pass it out the back, I got to drop in and help. That's what Bruno does. And this is where I say, look, until we play out the back better, that's why he keeps picking this midfield, despite its flaws. Because until the back progresses the ball up the pitch properly, it becomes a requirement for Bruno to be the progressive guy in the team, in the midfield, to drop out of the midfield to do that. And that's the reason. We need the passing to come out the back, but they weren't doing it. Anyway, he drops in. Shaw goes a bit wide. Shaw, very, very aggressive, like we saw in those first 5 minutes. Runs forward with the ball, carries it down the line. That's what we need to see. Really breaks through, gives us that extra man. Again, next possession, comes back. Bruno drops in. Shaw stays wide. Mazraoui is on. That's one of the things that helped in there. Dallo, very, very high up the pitch. So again, pass from here, I think just comes into, maybe it's Mount. And then Mount is able to send Dallo through very high up the pitch. That was very, very good. We want to see that from the wingbacks attacking. They end up breaking up the play. It comes back. Then Shaw makes a really, really nice pass over the top, down the sideline there. This is Xerxes, comes over, flicks it on into, again, Dallo, very high, running up the pitch. Dallo goes here. He gets fouled, and we score. So, again, same thing happened. We started attacking down that left side a bit more. Shaw being aggressive, running, passing, Dallo staying high, resulted in a goal, actually. Both of our goals come from Dallo getting fouled on that side. He had quite a good game. Then I just want to highlight here again as well, second ball and fight. This is where it was different to before. In this instance, you can see there's second balls. Bruno more alive to it, more energetic, working harder, ends up rushing out, winning these balls, fighting for it. There was just a lot more of that in the second half. So look, this was a little bit of a boring. I'm sorry to have been so repetitive in this review. It was boring. It's not a fun. It was not a fun game to review, not a fun game to watch because so little happened. But because of the kind of game it was all of the little things. And the difference between the first half and the second half was the first half losing every second ball, every duel, every battle, and just playing poorly. The second half was winning some of those battles, getting the ball in those good positions, drawing fouls, and being aggressive. Not much difference. But what it highlights for me is this is what we have to fix. The progression out of the back is a problem. If the center backs aren't going to be brave with the ball, then we're required to play a progressive midfield that's going to try and get the ball up themselves. That's going to lead to inconsistencies because the midfield that we have doesn't have the legs to do it in possession and out of possession at the same time. They don't. Maybe if they didn't have to progress the ball so much, we would see better positioning defensively. Maybe I could give them that forgiveness. I don't think so. I think it's still just a lack of legs. But our problems are our problems, and this is where we are. The center backs need to be more aggressive in passing. The midfield cannot win their duels. Not for 90 minutes, that's for sure. We're going to get outrun and outworked by most teams, and that's going to make it hard to be consistent. The individual quality that we have there might bail us out, but we're not going to see consistent, controlled, dominant performances until we win those battles in the midfield. And right now, that's not going to happen until we get some more players. So, yeah, that's it. It's teaching what we know. Midfield isn't going to win its battles. That's going to put us under pressure. That's going to let us not really control the game. The better we get at winning those battles, the more individual quality will help us win games. So, we'll see what happens. But certainly the center backs could do more as well. So I'm sorry that this tactical breakdown, it was long, boring, repetitive. Obviously, if you watch these types of videos, you might not mind that. I like doing this because I think it becomes really obvious to see what's actually going on without all the drama, especially in this game that was a man-to-man. And that's why I highlighted it so much, because there's no tactical, discrepancies. There was nothing. It's just man-to-man we were getting beat. By Mateta, by the midfield. As we started winning the man-to-man battles, we win the game. That's football, man. That's football. So hopefully we can change that in the January market. Hopefully we find a way, or we have enough quality during these easy games to win anyway, even if we're not winning these battles during these easy games. Because we're going to play against West Ham and Wolves. Well, Gomez and Andre are going to outrun our midfield. As bad as Wolves are, they are. So how is that going to look, right? Those are the questions we've got to ask. So we'll see. We'll see if there's any further solutions between now and January. But these are the things we're gonna look at and see, what happens. But yeah, quick turnaround to the next game too. So not gonna be as fresh. Not gonna have that whole week off. Is it gonna be worse? That's what I'm looking at against West Ham. Do we have another option? Is there something else we can try? In order to try and solve this in the meantime. Would playing Mazraoui progressing out the back from the start, being more aggressive there, help us with this? It might. It might. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.